too. You too. How are you?
Well, let's start. James, it's a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I have to say that I have heard Paradise and True Love of your new album, and there are amazing songs. How do you feel about going back with a record and with the live music? How do you feel about this new era in the music business?
I feel really good about it. I think that it's been a really tough year for everybody, and I think that music before the last year and a half was something that we all absorbed, and it was quite like you would go to work, right, and you would listen to music, and it was just on in the background, and it was just part of society. But I feel much more connected to music now than I did before because I think I took it for granted as a musician and as a lover of music. So I'm really excited at the prospect of playing music again live. I don't think I'll ever take it for granted, this job, the fact that I get to talk to you on the other side of the world and we get to talk about music. I think there was a time in my life, probably a few years ago, where I really took it for granted. I just assumed it would always be there, and then it got taken away from us, and now it's coming back, and I feel like a child getting to talk about music in such a lovely way. I never anticipated that for myself, so I'm really excited, genuinely.
I know that you have already made a concert, a live presentation there in Ireland. How do you feel? Can you tell us the experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was brilliant. It was very surreal, very strange, very again, like I got so used to, I don't know how many shows I've played in my life or how many people I've played to, like thousands of shows and hundreds of thousands of people. And I love each show, but you get into a rhythm with everything, right? Where it just becomes your job. And that, again, is not something I thought about. But when we did that show in Ireland, and it was the first show that had been played in Ireland in a year and a half, and it was only to 500 or 600 people, but it felt like we were playing to 50,000. It was like such a beautiful moment for everybody to share, and I don't think I've ever had a feeling like that before. That we all understood how important it was. We all understood how important music is to us all, but maybe again we've kind of all taken it for granted. So the idea of it coming back now and us getting to play shows, it meaning so much more potentially than it did before. It felt really, really like, yeah, just like again, quite childlike and very nerve-wracking, to be honest.
Taken for granted the normal life that it's
Yeah,
like if you are before a diet and you get a plenty of bread or plenty of sugar, and when you are in a diet you miss that kind of food, and when you again has the chance to take
yeah,
it, it's like amazing, like a new chocolate or a new candy. I think that it's also one thing that for you musicians or for the artists is like an engine to create and to inspire for new forms of lyrics, and also for new kinds of seeing the life.
yeah. I agree. I think that's a very good um like analog for it. That I you don't realize how important things are until they get taken away from you. And I think that's a relatable thing for everybody on the planet, because we all were living our lives based on a certain idea that we'll wake up tomorrow and a similar version of what happened yesterday or today is going to happen. And now we live in this new paradigm and this new existence. And we could easily slip back in. I probably will, you probably will, we'll probably slip back into something that resembled our old lives, where we'll start to get frustrated at the same things and we'll start to take for granted the same things we took for granted before. My hope is that I can retain just a little bit of the feeling that I have right now, the excitement of an album coming out that I've spent 2 years working on, and the expectation was I would get to release on my timetable and do what I want, and that maybe we would get to have this conversation in person, that I would get to fly to the other side of the world like I used to and have this conversation, and now we're on the other end of a computer screen. So that the prospect of getting to meet you in real life or meet anybody in real life is really exciting to me. So it is, you have to deprive yourself of those things to understand how important they are, how important human connection is, how important culture is. It's like lifeblood for me, but I don't really think I realized it until this last year.
I think that we are right now in the middle field between going back to the human connection, but also applying the technology to get with this human connection even virtually. Because I think
Yeah.
that maybe you could be here in Mexico and we can talk in person, or maybe not, because you will be having a side agenda, and to be with the media would be right difficult. So maybe we can take the better part of each world and make a symbiotic experience. How do you feel these kind of experiences are in your new record?
I mean, the new records, like this album was very much based around kind of what happened last year, but not intentionally, because the album was finished before like everything happened. But like I certainly, before I started making the album, had been thinking a lot about these types of things that we're talking about, taking stuff for granted, or even more so the idea of like feeling, waiting for life to make me feel the way I wanted to feel. Like I've been a professional musician for, like, I've been releasing albums for 10 years. You know, I've sold hundreds of thousands of records. I've got a billion streams. I have all of the things that people like me should need to make them feel like a proper musician, a professional, a grown up. But I never have. I've always felt very impostery, because I think a lot of musicians, a lot of artists do. It's what makes us get up in the morning and work. But I think that I wanted to make a record that made me feel comfortable with reality, which is that I might never feel like I want to feel. And I wanted to present that to an audience in a way that made sense, that was honest and not overly thought, so that so that the impetus behind it would land, which is, it's okay to not feel that way. It's okay to wake up in the morning and not feel capable of taking on the day. It doesn't mean that you're any less of a person. It means more so to me, because the idea of faking it and trying to, like, you know, present this outward vision on like social media or whatever happens to be in your life, to be like everything is okay, and then as soon as you switch your phone off, you're just, you know, sitting in a room by yourself, incredibly sad, or whatever it happens to be. I wanted to capture an energy in a record that said it's okay to be like that. It's okay to feel that way. If anything, you should see it as a positive and not a negative. And then last year happened, and everybody was suddenly sat at home staring at themselves, finding no validation in the things they found validation in before, be it like, you know, your social life or the things that you do, the things that you're known for. I was known as a musician. That's what people know me for. And that got taken away from me. I was just a person sitting in my house by myself. So I feel like I was learning that lesson along with everybody else. And then I think that this album, when people hear it, hopefully there's stuff in it that, while not written last year, has a relatability to it, because it was written about that idea of like, you don't have to, that you are a complete person in and of yourself. You don't have to have all these other things around you in order to feel that way. You can feel everything is valid, and every feeling that you have has a validity to it.
I think that the combination of the pandemic and all the expression in the social media and influencers and all of that are making that most of you musicians and all artists are turning around to telling your audience, please be calm, take care of your social of your mental health. It's not it's not something that you have to be happy every time in the day, because it's okay to have this flow, and with that, I think that you are making a great community service.
Well, I mean, I think that that's something that musicians should do. I think like what we write, and I feel like should help. It should contribute. I don't think it's helpful to people to constantly, from, if I was to go on Instagram page and take photos of the cars that I own or the houses that I own or the jewelry that or whatever happens to me. I'm not judging anybody that does that. I'm saying if that is what you feel like you need to do to feel the way you need to feel. But I just feel like if that's all we're getting, if that's all I'm getting, then it's going to make me feel terrible all the time, because you know, if you're looking at that and you don't have it, then you want it, and it creates all sorts of, like, you start to appreciate the wrong things. The simplicity of life can be for me, and is what's really special to me right now. And I don't want to create anything that doesn't help people, that doesn't make people feel a bit more at ease. And the notion that like we're all in this together is a really lovely idea, but it's not the truth. You know what I mean? We're all in different places in our lives. The world as we know it is not built on this holistic ideal. It's still very much based on platforms and levels. And I don't want to make people feel worse. I want to make them feel better. I think I have a responsibility as a musician and as a human being to try and make people feel a bit more at ease with themselves. So that is where my head is as a musician, without trying to overthink it, to just be a bit more honest and a bit more humble in my work.
Well, James, my time has run out, but I'm expecting to see you here in Mexico in 22. After
so.
it's not in after the pandemic because COVID will be here forever. But when the conditions are okay, and to see you with your new record, but also to see you with this kind of emotion exploding with the people.
Yeah, I hope so too. I want to be everywhere. We all want to be everywhere. I'm sure like you want to be everywhere now as soon as it's humanly possible. So like, yeah, hopefully see you soon and we can like play music and do the things that people like to do again. Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
So.
Yeah,
also,
pleasure.
James, thank you very much for this conversation.
Absolute pleasure. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.